Hey guys, once you join me, make sure to, talk so that I get to know who is watching and what. That helps out a bit. So, as soon as a few people join, we are gonna start. So, I would tentatively say the session would start at 6:05 ish because Indians are always late. So, let's wait for them a little bit. Yeah, I guess that works. Audio quality has been checked by my team, and yeah, we can start now. So, I know many of you are doing your internships right now, MBA internships, and it's a time of hustle. So, even on a Saturday when the session is at 6 p.m., some of you will be commuting or still working towards your daily course. But, you know, that's why the benefit of YouTube stays true to its purpose because you are still gonna end up viewing this whenever it's time pursues you to, and we're not gonna spend too much time into that. If you have got questions, make sure you use the live chat feature. If you can subscribe to the channel, that's better. Once you do, you will get the access to the chat, live chat, and over there you can ask your queries, and as we go along, if it's relevant to the course of the subject or whatever we are talking about, then we'll take up the question right then and there, and we are going to start addressing those questions as we go along. So I have got a bad bad case of the cough and cold today. So not gonna be my usual, but try to bear with me. And as we go along, let's see how this turns out to be. So first and foremost, making the most out of your MBA journey. You are already into the MBA journey 1 year down. So now you have to make sure that you make the most out of your time, and that goes without saying. You need a strategy, and how to get that strategy in terms of academia, in terms of final placement, in terms of utilizing your the best out of your summer internships. That is the question that nobody told me, but I think I have had enough experiences to help people crack their interviews and everything. So we'll get touch on that in a little bit. But that's where my headspace is at right now. Uh, let's go ahead and let's see how I will be able to help you guys. So the first part is about me. Obviously, this is just not for the SIBM Bangalore cohort. Anybody can stumble upon this, and they must be wondering who am I and where did I pop off to give you such a lecture. So a little bit about me as well. Starting from the base, uh, I did complete my education from BDM International, one of the top schools in Kolkata. I had taken, unfortunately, science stream, which naturally ran its course, and I ended up at SRM University, finding myself learning computer science engineering. And it wasn't my area of interest, I would say, but I got off well. And then, right as the placement season hit, I had in the back of my mind that I will do an MBA at some point, maybe after 2 years of work experience, maybe that line, or I take a year off. So what happened eventually was, as were at our final juncture of the fourth semester, COVID had hit, and I had very limited capability to follow into that whole charade of going to placements because I had endured an accident, first of two. Uh, so that happened. Was good in, writing poems, watching sports. I coupled all those things to venture out a career in sports journalism. So that's where you can see I have got some passion turned career in terms of sports, Kira Khel now and Warner Brothers. I have been fortunate enough to work with them in this field of sports and writing. So was journalist for a couple of years, sorry. And then I got my full-time employment at Sporticos, which is a Polish-based media outlet from Warsaw, Poland. And then I was doing what? I was writing, Bet 365 sponsored previews of any match not you, it's not very legal in India, but around the world, sports betting, the people who are into sports betting, they would get a lot of traction and help from my previews. So that's my work experience per se. And this is a very, already we are hitting the ceiling. It's not very convenient or not very streamlined, very diversified portfolio computer science engineer than a sports journalist. I was the youngest sports journalist at 24-year-old who got verified by Twitter, who was independent. There is a lot of subclause to that record, but yeah, youngest independent sports journalist of India who got verified by Twitter when Twitter verifications were not bought. Then the MBA journey started because I thought, well, I am getting back into my comfort zone, and let's see what we can do. How can we get back to the initial plan A of doing an MBA? I tried my hard. I tried my level best, working full time and trying for CAT. I got 90 percentile in CAT. Three calls, three IM calls, couldn't convert them because I was not as good in interviews as I am now. So it was a learning experience for me, and definitely I would credit that to the failure that I endured. I ended up in SIBM Bangalore. It was around 96 percentile marks. Not a fan of no sectional cutoffs. So if it was sectional cutoff, I could have done maybe more, but it doesn't matter. SIBM Bangalore people know it doesn't matter. Only the marks matter. So moving on, what did I do? I got an internship at Big Basket. So I was not aiming for all the companies were on campus. I was very picky and choosy. I got into Big Basket. I wanted to explore the marketing aspect of it because I was clear in my first year that I'm not going to do finance, not understanding it much, barely getting on by understanding, just scoring good marks. And I have to credit my friends for that. So Big Basket came. It was one of the hardest interviews in Big Basket because this year also I got to know from the juniors it wasn't as hard because uh, the team that came this year was relatively easy. That time in one room, four people went in, one came out. So I mean, I was not the best in that cohort, but I think my storytelling experience came into fruition. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but I don't think it's needed because you are already doing your internship. So no point in talking about the internship, but I have to talk and touch upon the mentality of it. Quickly, if you are seeing this QR code and wondering, that's a QR code for my LinkedIn profile. The second one, at the rate our MBA Life, is a new Instagram page that I have created. Why? To guide people better. Uh, I have recently mentored so quickly before that. So during my first year and second year, both the time, I was privileged to have helped a lot of people, like more than you can count on these two hands. A lot of people to understand, strategize how to go about their interviews, what to talk, how to form a coherent storyline. I did that, and well, I have been doing that even after the college ended. I have been helping some of the clients. The highest package that a client got was about 80 LPA. So higher position, yes. Can't name the company for obvious reasons, but through my family, somebody reached out to me, and we devised the whole strategy of how to go about switching jobs at a high position. So in those regards, I think I hold a key to help you guys out in terms of interviews and creating that mentality where you become undeniable from undesirable. Enough about me. So, I think the last thing I have to touch on is the final placement. So, I got into the Day Zero company, not naming names, but one of the big four consulting firms that came this year. Very first company I got placed, and ever since that, I have a lot of free time on my hand, and I'm utilizing it well by reading a lot of books, a lot of playing a lot of games and other things as well. So let's move ahead now so that you know right off the bat who am I. Let's talk about the Pareto rule because this plays a critical factor and also the normal distribution curve. Why should we need to talk about it? So a lot of you people, let's say 100 people, watches this video at random intervals of time. You would think that wouldn't it be monotonous that you are telling us to strategize your final placement SIP experiences and all everything that I mean I am one singular, so it's a one to many relationship, right? So when I give same gyan to all of you, don't you think that it's gonna be counterintuitive? By that, what I mean is, I am telling the same thing to every one of you. What are the chances that, let's say, five of you watch that video, five of you watch this video, five of you are in the let's say interview round, and you're gonna apply the same strategies or have the same resume structure that I will talk about, right? But no, that's not how real life works. It works in miraculous ways, and we as a species are very indisciplined. So that's where the Pareto rules comes into picture. So according to me, whatever I talked about today, you need to make only 20% of the important efforts. And when you make those efforts, you will get 80% of the results. That's a guarantee. However, the problem is 80% people won't listen to it. Because if you remember, in times of Geo, when Geo started their free data packs, people were not as much as lazy as they are these days. Explanation. So before pre-geo era, people often said that if I had access to a repository of books, I would be a better student. If I have access to information, I would be learning every day. But when it came, our efforts to grasp a thing or learn or put efforts has diminished very much. And coming to that, so only 20%, maybe less, will watch this video and implement. If you do, you can get a good relative amount of success in your own account, but you won't. So don't worry about it. Like five of you, 20%, one will just go about the video. So your competition, even if you are following this method, is very low. Normal distribution again reinforces the same idea. 0.13 people are on this side, and average stays average. And my aim in life has been to step beyond the threshold of average. Don't like the term mediocre average. So moving on, that's the Pareto rule. Steps to a successful SIP. Now already you are doing an SIP, right? Fine, great for you. How do you maximize this? That's the question that I have. Now, let's pick one diagram by one diagram, and let's see what we are talking about. So last one, if you can't read, that is network building. Okay, so career trajectory. For 50% of the people, if you want a marketing job, you would do if you are in a marketing internship, I think that really sets your career trajectory, because in the second year when it comes to FP, you won't be looking otherwise. You will be focused into getting a sales or marketing role, and you will be happy. So it forms the foundation of your preferential bias, which is a thing. And then second, the most important part, I think personally, is the academic weightage. So for in second semester for SIV in Bangalore, your SIP project reports and everything, the whole charade that you go about, can give you an academic weightage of 500 marks. And you are getting, I think, the most number of credits in that semester, which is this one. I think for project you get 10 credits. So eventually the significance of your SIP experience bundled into one factor as academia becomes a lot of important, because it sets your CGP apart. the final grade you're going to receive through this semester. And this is the most vital semester, which many people choose to ignore. But please don't do that. It will be, cutting your own head off. So don't do that. A lot of academic weightage is given to this. So adhere to the deadlines, adhere everything. The project report should be done with utmost sincerity. And let's talk about the third aspect of it, resume building. We'll touch on that on resume building a little bit later, but for now, make a note of it. Resume building is one key aspect because when you arrive at your institution, you will barely have a few weeks, and then suddenly day zero company is going to drop with one of the best opportunities in terms of package or say brand recognition. And if you're not ready, if your resume is not up to the mark to compete with other people, you're gonna lament it or regret it for most of your life. So don't do that. Self scaling and network building are two key essential elements which you need to do it during your SIP. So I know SIP for some people, for me personally, it was a lot of work, manual work. I had to sit on my laptop, I had to create hierarchies. It's not an easy job. And so getting time for skilling oneself becomes all the more difficult when you don't have a time. You have to procure your own food, stay in a PG, and that's a little bit tough. You don't have ways to cook. You order. It's not very healthy life cycle, lifestyle, whatever you call it. But still, you need to do self skilling. So what I did was I did not find enough time. Also during my internship, I got into an accident, so I did not have nearly enough time to finish my project. So, but I did it anyway, but I did not have any time. Rather, except an Excel course, I wouldn't say I did much. But after getting back to college, within those 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I devoted myself. I completed courses left, right, and center that set me apart from the crowd, and you must do it too. The last is if you love the organization that you are in, not essentially expecting for a PPO, but if you like the organization and you want to be a part of it, uh, or regardless, if you even don't want that, if that's not in your mindset, I would still say creating a network within your organization, talking to people would go and fetch you, benefits a long way because that's the point where your network building initially starts. People talk a lot about network building in MBA in colleges, but connecting to students doesn't give you any leverage or sets up any benchmarks. But when you do it in an organization, that definitely helps. Talk to people, like understand the company, understand the culture, understand your SIP. Now, here I have got a few questions which I would like to take because for weeks now, people have been asking me some questions. So let's just go about it, answering some of them. The first one that comes to mind is some tips for people going for summer internships in their MBA. First point is be clear about your project details. Like you got to deliver your project, be thorough with it. I would say if you have a tree to chop down, your best time utilization would be to sharpen the X for the longest time so that it takes less effort to slash the tree down. So you must understand what are the core deliverables of your project and by what time frame you need to go about things, what are the things you need to learn. If your project requires extensive use of Excel, it will be a right time to learn Excel, get a certification for it from a reputed source. Second, when in doubt, always ask. So I used to get a lot of doubts because I was not internally aware about Big Basket's internal structure. So whenever I had to ask somebody about something, I wouldn't hesitate to go about and talk to those respective teams or people, schedule a meeting, talk to them, understand the whole crux of the project or where I am stuck and how to go about things because these people have experience. You don't be cocky, they know their work, so you get a helping hand. Eventually, you're going to do your own work, but there's nothing wrong in understanding the project or raising question or understanding in it very intrinsically, so that you can also propose suggestion when you are done with the company. The next thing that we are going to be talking about is getting the big picture. You are in your SIP. Let's say you're not in you're not. So this is a little bit out of the ordinary. So you are you have struggled to find an SIP, let's say, and you have collected or secured an SIP from elsewhere, XYZ. And now your concern is what is the importance, or is the SIP important? We have talked about it for academic weightage and everything, but even from an interview standpoint in for final placements, you need to showcase how important how much of an important project you are handling at one time for this XYZ organization. And how do you do that? Well, I would say you're given a task. Let's call that task 3, like the third version of something. You have to implement the third version. But while you were working for those 2 months, in your back of your head, you think, or maybe you are doing ChatGPT and you come across some ideation that gives you a thought process that this project could be implemented here, 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 and some with some additional features. If that is incorporated into your project number 3, it becomes a beta 3.1 or 3.2, and there are use cases for those versions of the project, and but your manager would definitely not approve it or something. You don't have to do it. You return to the college, you propose the suggestions as a report that these were your key findings, and you make a substantially less important project into a more significant one. In Big Basket, some of our mentors also talked about understanding what each of us were given and then connecting our projects to create a new transformational project. That would be a concept, but you can include that into your own report, and the person you are collaborating with, your mate, you can also collaborate, like she or he can also write those project, incorporate your work, and give a suggestion that there can be a transformational project out of this, which is version 3.2. And so both of you get a lot of leverage or traction in your own projects. Okay, that's all about SIP. You get marks, secure as much as possible, build a network, learn, skill, diversify your skill sets, and then buzz off, I guess. Okay, I have to take a moment's break. Just give me a second. Yeah, we're back. Sorry for that. Not doing well health wise. So, okay. Now, another part of it, through questions that people have asked me, obstacles during SIPs or academics that would reflect in your final placements, let's say. So, let's go about it. What were the challenges? First challenge is academic setbacks, which essentially means backlogs or a lesser CGPA or SGPA. So, what do you do about that? See, the first and foremost thing goes without saying should be don't get a backlog. Easier said than done, right? Uh, okay, what can we do if we have a few backlogs? Nothing to worry. You can only clear backlogs in your semester exams. Clear it in the next cycle. But yes, the short answer that you want to know, will opportunities be lost? Yes, they would. Some companies come with a very strict ask of CGPA or SGPA, let's say CGPA. CGPA above 7, that's always been the criteria. So try to keep your CGPA afloat of 7 and no backlog. So some reputed companies will come for that, and you can't do anything if you have a backlog. However, there are multiple companies. If you are taking a stream like marketing, many companies will come. If you are taking finance, apply for the general management roles. We'll get back to that in a bit, but so don't limit yourself. Like, I know it will be palpating to understand or comprehend that you have a backlog, but there's nothing you can do about it right now, and it's not the time for that. You are losing out on a few selected opportunities, but better companies are there, and you can still turn it around. It's not much big of a deal. We're talking in very tight spaces. Like, a few opportunities doesn't reflect on all the opportunities that you're going to get. So if you have some a setback, there is a trade-off, there is some price to be paid, and for that reason, yes, you're losing out on some opportunities, but don't worry, it's going to be fine. It's going to pan out. Next thing is internship limitations. For those of you who don't know, this is a fishbone diagram, was in our operations book, and this diagram helped me to crack my company. How, we'll talk in a bit towards the end. But you know, I would say read the books. Try to read the books. If you read MBA books, your 90% preparation is done. And I can't emphasize that enough. Read MBA books. Not all of them, some of them. Don't just sell them off. I have not sold any of my books, and it's a thought that I hold very dear. You shouldn't be selling your books. Those books have a lot of things that can help you to crack interviews. Whereas you're in a tight schedule, you're in clubs and committees, you don't have the time. That's a drawback that you have to settle yourself with. So internship limitation, as we talked about, going to some companies or unpaid internships where you think your work is not that important, your company is not that great. You have to go back to the previous slide, and we have to, if that's your case, this point, self-skilling point, becomes all the more important. And how do you frame a story about all the time in your internship? How do you reflect that in your resume building? Those two facets become the most crucial ones during your FP season. uh, Third thing is narrative deficiencies, which I was talking about, story building around whatever you are doing. So you have to create a coherent story of what your job responsibility or SIP experience was. And the more you understand the inner workings of the company, the more you can talk about it, understand the rules, and talk about this different perspective. Or let's say my own project that I got would have reflected into the product department, a lot of departments. So you can give a point of view from those departments perspective. So a many to one relationship, how your project is gonna uplift the whole structure of their projects or their departments. So elevate your project, make your project sound important. That's a thing that goes a long way. The fourth point is profile homogeneity. Your profile shouldn't be stranded in the same place. For example, if you are a BA student and you are doing courses in Excel, doesn't add anything to valuable to your resume, because it's the same thing. You are expected to learn more. I was a computer science student. If I did coding courses, doesn't do anything for me. So when it comes to my electives, I wouldn't pick a course like Python. It doesn't do anything for me. Also, if the industry is asking for Python, go ahead, do it. If you want to learn Python, learn it on your own through courses. Don't taint it by putting something pen on a paper. Okay. So that's the clever way of doing things. Also, this third and fourth semester will be a tough time to uh, not tough, let's say crucial time for you to uplift your CGPA, because the weightage is good and mostly people score well in the second year. So make a note of that. Despite your constant FP battles, you have to be proficient and you have to maximize your efforts in the right direction. If you have got a question, now would be a good time, because I'm going to be taking a 1 minute break and I'm going to be coming back to this. So if you have any questions, please drop it in the comment box. Yeah, so moving on, the next thing is, let's talk about final placements. So I would say my mentor. So after the my senior batch left, I made one of them my mentors, because we are not permitted talk to. If you're not in a committee, you are not essentially permitted to talk to seniors. That was the that was a chain, that was the habit of people which I tried to break this year, and has been successful to some extent, because a lot of juniors are talking to the seniors. And I think collaboration, true collaboration happens when people exchange perspectives. So that was a very good thing to see this year, people talking to other people. So my mentor, who I made my mentor, she's in Dell. She told me, like, I asked her during my SIP, should I be picky about, I guess we're back. There was a technicality, I guess. Anyway, so really sorry for the network delay, but I guess it should be working now. I guess. Uh, so, uh, so, talking about my mentor, well, she told me, yes, be picky and choosy if you have the confidence that you can crack within, let's say, 5 companies or 4 companies. Uh, then it's worth a shot to try out. What's happening? Is the camera not working? Let's solve this issue first. Yeah, I guess now it does work, right? Should be, should be working. So, my mentor told me to be very picky and choosy, so I tell it with a take it with a pinch of salt. If you're very confident and you had a fantastic SIP interview experiences, like in my case, I told my mentor that I have never been eliminated from a GD, where GD is my not the strongest suit, PIs are. But fortunately, after those IM interviews, like GD has never been a problem. GD throughout, from like very early on in my uh, life, I have been relatively good in GDs. So I told her that won't the preliminary rounds won't be a problem. But if you are that confident, then obviously go for it. Otherwise, how do you pick up a company? So first is the brand reputation. Second is the employee satisfaction, which is remuneration, salary, and the future adaptability. So you won't get three in a bunch, mostly you won't get three in a bunch. That has been the case that I have seen throughout the year. You can get any two of them. Uh, Either your job is going to be future proof, or you have employee satisfaction, or you have brand reputation. So, whatever is your preference, make two count and then apply for a company if that's what you're looking for. How do you prepare for those FPs? Are what is going to be explained by the diagram of the earth. So that's how I went about things. That's how I train people to go about things. So your inner core and outer core. The inner core is your own resume, your own portfolio, what you have been doing, what makes you you is the inner core. The outer core would be what are the additional skills you are incorporating or working towards. That's the outer core. The mental is, are you organizational fit? That should be the mental. So I would say inner core, outer core is what you do for every interview, and it's the unchangeable factor about you. If you are so and so from this and this college, you are proficient in xyz skills, you are a marketer, you are a finance whatever, a guy, girl, you maintain those cores in your arsenal. Then for company A, B, and C, your mental changes every time because you see if you are organizational fit and you try to match yourself, your personality, your core with the role or the company's mission and vision, and you try to see if you are fitting into that role, and you cater your whole interview answers with keeping the mental in mind. What is the crust? Crust is your nitty gritties, which we talked about: brand, employee satisfaction, future adaptability. So those things changes company by company, and that's where we are standing right now. So according to me, you don't have to prepare differently for every company. You keep your course same. You change or tweak your mental according to the organization fit or person fit, and then your trust changes upon your expectation in this regards. Now, let's talk about some of the more things that have people have asked. So I have got a question: does club and committees matter, and if not, how to go about it? So listen, I'm gonna be very upfront with you. Day zero job that I cracked, 14 people got selected. 14, 1 4. Out of those 14 people, 13 in our college, SIBM Bangalore, 13 were in either club or committees. Only one person got in without a club or committee. That was me. I take no pride in that. That's just the fact. And I think, yes, you can do it, but you have to be confident. You have to be proficient enough to butt heads with people who have got more exposure in around the college campus than you have, like more stage time, more time to conquer their fears, more time to really understand their drawbacks and implement new functionalities, more time for team building, more time to speak, more time to articulate their thoughts. If you don't have all that things and you haven't got enough practice for it, mentally you should be ready either to compete with them, or if you think you're better than them, both works. So that's the thing I'm going to be talking about. Club committees, keep it in the back burner of your brain for now. If you don't have it, you don't have it. There is no way of getting it back. But make yourself proficient in other skills so that those drawbacks don't become essentially a factor for you where it becomes your hindrance. Because I hate regretting later, so don't regret over it now. Another junior has asked me uh, a brief interview experience of consulting. Okay, so being very honest, first company, I had no idea what my role was, what it was, and everything went wrong in that day. There was what do you call it? I'm not getting the term right now. PPT, pre-placement talk. Yes, there was a pre-placement talk. I missed that message, so I wasn't present for the pre-placement talk, and my whole interview happened based on that pre-placement talk. So I was at a major disadvantage, and you have to turn the script around and show that you belong. Sometimes apologizing enough wouldn't cut the cake. That was the same scene for me. But before that, what happened? Let's talk how you should go about the interviews. So here is a brainstorming session which happens. Most of the interviews give you guesstimates. In second year, you should be familiar with guesstimates, and everybody has a different approach when it comes to guesstimates. So the very question that was given to me, I have it written down. So I'm gonna be looking down. So let's try to make you understand what I understood from that. Okay, let me find it first. A lot of semester three. Okay, so there's a company ABC, which is the world's largest supplier of medical devices. It it monitors or makes devices for 30 plus chronic disease, including heart, spine, etc. The revenue of that company is 30 billion US dollars, and the market is 140 countries. The sales have gone down due to COVID, or there is a logistical delay. I don't remember the exact framing of the question. Maybe there was a logistical hindrance, so how do you go about this? So this is typically an operation case, and I am a marketeer. So take your time, okay? Think it through, and you deal with it in a very structured way. So you like I'm giving a brief of it because my health is not good today, but I'm sure if you follow that YouTube page that we talked about, this one, try to follow it our MBA live, uh, because I'm going to be sharing it in much more detail or give you like if I get any questions, I'm going to make a video about it and it's going to be very helpful, I promise. Also, this will be uh, a great channel to follow because there will be a lot of question outside MBA preparation, more pertinent towards jobs and job roles, mentality building and all. So make sure you do that. Today we are running a bit late on time, so let's just okay. So there are four distinct business units: cardiovascular, diabetics, spinal, and therapies. The main markets are US, Canada, and Europe. Regulatory machines, ventilators, regulators are the things that they are dealing with. Like the case was given very vaguely, like this, the exact way I'm talking. Each of the business units is facing high demand for COVID 19, spike of orders, but they can't be delivering the orders. Staff shortages, lockdown, everything is not going in their favor. So, how do you go about this case? Okay, so try to implement all the concepts that you have learned in your life or in your MBA and talk it through to the interviewer of giving him an indication. Like how many cups of teas are sold in Bandra station is a very old form of guesstimates, which I don't think is, I mean, it's very pre MBA interview kind of a thing. In job roles, you have to delve into much more because now you have the MBA knowledge, right? So, okay, here is how I would go about it today. I don't remember what I said back then, but here is how I would go about it today. I think every day you improve a bit, so I am much more equipped to handle that case right now than I was back then. So let's set a year first. The year is 2020. Okay, COVID-19 just happened. Your logistical delays and restrictions are in full display. What do you do? Whatever you studied in this PPT, I use only two concepts. Let's go through them. First thing, Pareto rule. When you don't have anything, Pareto might help, or all those structural frameworks that you have. What I said was, okay, I know the problem statement, which is there is a high demand, supply is short. In essentiality, that's the problem the company is facing, ABC company. We are world's largest medical device maker or supplier. So it will be a cash burning exercise for me for the sustainable future. I don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. Because I'm sitting in 2020, I don't have a time frame when the vaccines are going to be developed, when it will be cured, when we'll return back to normalcy. So from that point of view, I approach this case. I talk about Pareto rule. So what we are taught in Pareto rule stays true into daily life scenarios and also in business world. If I'm a global manufacturer or distributor of this medical devices, I have to identify, like there are 140 countries that I do business with. I have to identify 20% of the market, 20% of those countries, which essentially gives me 80% of the business. That is, do we have a problem? No. Okay. So yeah, 20% of those. Excuse me once again. This nose is killing me. Yes. So 20% of the countries that are giving me 80% of the business, I should only focus on those countries for now, because I have to see that my there are staff shortages, and how do I go about it in the next 6 months. What I do, fine. The interview understood that you got the case. You are now making some sort of assumptions to go about the case, and he's content with it. Let's delve more into that. You say I have to identify this markets of 20% that gives me 80% of the business. And as it already said, US, Canada, and Europe are the main source of operations. Let's assume it's a US based company, because US and Canada in North America, that gives me a more logical thinking where its roots are. Now, you can, from if you are an US company, I think delivering the products to US won't be much of a challenge. And considering these are the areas where money comes from, I think those are the identifiable market. But let's talk about demographically something that's out of your territory but gives you an equally good business. Let's assume that country is India. If India is giving me a lot of business, what I need to do to a country offshore when there are logistical delay, problem in transportation, there are restrictions, there is lockdown. So what I do is I set up an internal team in India. So earlier I was shipping the equipment from here to there, but right now what I would do is I would send some of the experts and make the business localized. So set up manufacturing plants within 6 months, send some experts, train people there, and train in specific regions from where the logistical whereabouts will be much easier than if you are operating from offshore. For that, I divided my whole task into four elements, which is essentially the fishbone diagram. So, what I wrote that day was running with reduced capacity, half of staff will be a problem in distribution. So, I also need to venture out and look into the automating landscape that has been happening, because you are manufacturing machines. So, a lot of automation parts installation could be done in Henry Ford's model assembly line. And that would be beneficial for me because the staff is at a short and I have to cut costs, save corners, cut corners. And how does it affect my turnover? So first and foremost, I have to be content that I'm the world's largest organization, and this too will pass. This is a cash burning exercises. I have to limit my losses. That's my only concern. I'm not going to be making a profit here because my whole business in going through a transition, and I'm rethinking my business model. So it will be a cash burning exercise, and the earlier I accept that, the better. I make operations head engage with the supply chain and value chain. So I have these experts who I venture out to those countries, 20% of the countries that we talked about, and they handle the operations locally so that the demand is met. And that's how you go about it. Like, this is the fundamental root work of your analysis, and then you extrapolate on all the pointers. So fishbone diagram and Pareto rule helped me secure a job. I hope it does for you as well. Keep reading, keep reaching out to me. Uh, if this adds any value to you, what is the importance of SIP? I told you a lot. How to go about FPs. I told you how to build this core and mental and trust. Don't panic. Build a habit of fighting it out. A few more things before we part ways is don't bicker. A lot of people I've seen is bickering. If they fall out of a GD or something, they bicker a lot. See, nothing is fair in this world. You won't get a fair shot at anything if you are undeniable. If you aren't undeniable, you can't crack half the things in life. So try to work on yourself rather than bickering and complaining, and nothing will hold you back in the second year. Even if you have got a shitty SIP, I have seen people who have got a shitty SIP or SIPs from outside, they have made it to big companies. So let nothing hold you back. And we'll be staying in touch. Thank you for this, for being in this session. Thank you from my side also. Obviously, reach out to me. Goes without saying again. I, this is the LinkedIn profile. That's the Instagram page that I've created for this MBA journey and future job notifications or anything. Stay in touch. Stay healthy. Good luck for your SIPs. Make the most out of it. Talk to people.